Have you ever felt emotionally drained after interacting with someone? Do you sometimes question your own judgment because of how someone else makes you feel? Unfortunately, evil doesn't just exist in myths or movies. It operates in real life, often in subtle, deceptive ways. However, with awareness and wisdom, you can identify these individuals and protect yourself. Philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca warn us about toxic individuals and provided insights on how to maintain our peace despite their presence. Let's uncover the unmistakable signs of an evil person and how Stoic philosophy can help us deal with them. The power of manipulation. No man is free who is not master of himself. Epictetus. Manipulation is a subtle yet powerful tool used by those who wish to control others without resorting to overt displays of force. Unlike physical coercion, which is immediately recognizable and often met with resistance, manipulation operates covertly, gradually eroding your self-confidence and undermining your ability to trust your own judgment. Evil individuals who master this art exploit human vulnerabilities to distort reality, leaving you questioning your own worth while trapping you in a cycle of dependence. At its core, manipulation is the deliberate distortion of perception. It is an artful form of psychological influence that shifts your perspective so subtly that, before you know it, you begin to doubt your own abilities and intuition. These manipulators often present themselves as supportive, caring individuals. They shower you with compliments and seemingly offer sincere guidance, all the while orchestrating a narrative that diminishes your self-esteem. The ultimate goal is to make you reliant on them for decision-making, thereby transferring power over your thoughts, feelings, and actions into their hands. The subtle tactics of manipulation. Manipulators excel in the art of subtlety. Their tactics are not overt or aggressive. Instead, they are insidious and calculated. They may praise you publicly while undermining you privately, creating a dissonance that leaves you confused about the true nature of their intentions. For instance, imagine a colleague who always appears to have your best interests at heart. In front of others, he is effusive with praise, highlighting your strengths and celebrating your accomplishments. However, in private conversations or behind closed doors, he shifts his focus to your weaknesses, magnifying small mistakes and framing them as significant failures. This duality is designed to create cognitive dissonance. When you hear public affirmations of your abilities, but later receive private criticism, you begin to internalize a sense of inadequacy. The manipulator's alternating behavior makes it difficult to discern when praise is genuine and when it is merely a precursor to a subtle attack. This uncertainty gradually chips away at your self-confidence, making you more dependent on their guidance, as you start believing that perhaps you do need someone else's perspective to see the truth about your shortcomings. A personal encounter with manipulation. I once experienced this form of manipulation firsthand with a colleague whose behavior epitomized the tactics described above. In team meetings, he was invariably the one to highlight my successes, ensuring that I appeared competent and reliable in the eyes of our peers and superiors. His public compliments made it seem as though I was thriving under his mentorship. However, over time, I began to notice a troubling pattern. In private, he would focus on minor flaws, subtly insinuating that my achievements were not as significant as they appeared. Whenever I questioned his conflicting behaviors, he would calmly insist that his criticisms were intended to help me improve, suggesting that I was simply not aware of my own limitations. This experience was a stark revelation of how manipulators operate. By twisting the narrative and controlling the information you receive about yourself, they ensure that you remain dependent on their validation. The praise that initially boosted your confidence becomes a double-edged sword, as it is later used to justify a series of undermining remarks. The net result is a state of perpetual self-doubt, where every decision, every action, is second-guessed through the lens of another's skewed perspective. The Stoic response to manipulation. Stoic philosophy offers timeless wisdom that is particularly effective in countering manipulative tactics. One of the central tenets of Stoicism is the emphasis on inner freedom and the mastery of one's own mind. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, taught that external forces cannot truly control us unless we give them permission to do so. This principle is especially relevant when dealing with manipulators who seek to erode your self-reliance. 1. Recognize and remain objective. The first step in countering manipulation is to develop an objective perspective. When you notice that someone consistently encourages you to depend on their guidance or questions your independent judgment, it is important to step back and assess the situation. Ask yourself whether their advice genuinely benefits you or if it serves to reinforce your reliance on their opinion. Recognizing manipulation requires a clear understanding of your own values and the confidence to trust your inner voice. 2. Strengthen your inner judgment. A robust inner judgment is the cornerstone of true freedom. By cultivating self-awareness and confidence, you empower yourself to evaluate situations without the clouding influence of another's agenda. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that our minds are our own, and that no external force can diminish our autonomy unless we allow it. Strengthening your inner judgment means regularly reflecting on your experiences, affirming your self-worth, and making decisions based on your own convictions rather than on the shifting opinions of those around you. 3. Set firm boundaries. Establishing clear, personal boundaries is essential in preventing manipulation. Boundaries serve as a safeguard against emotional entanglement with those who might seek to control you. When you set firm boundaries, you communicate to others that you value your autonomy and that you are unwilling to compromise your integrity for the sake of someone else's agenda. This may involve distancing yourself from individuals who repeatedly attempt to undermine your confidence or making it clear that certain types of feedback are unacceptable. In doing so, you create a protective space where your thoughts and feelings remain your own, free from undue external influence. Conclusion. The power of manipulation lies not in overt dominance, but in the slow, calculated erosion of self-trust. By exploiting your vulnerabilities and distorting your perception of reality, manipulators can gradually enslave your mind, leaving you dependent on their skewed perspective. However, the wisdom of Stoic philosophy offers a path to reclaiming your freedom. Through objective self-assessment, strengthening your inner judgment, and setting firm boundaries, you can resist the insidious tactics of manipulation. As Epictetus reminds us, mastery over oneself is the true mark of freedom. By staying vigilant and committed to your inner values, you ensure that no one can control your destiny without your consent. The illusion of charm. Appearances, no matter how dazzling, often hide the truth beneath. Epictetus. In the realm of human interactions, charm can be a double-edged sword. For many, a charismatic smile, an engaging manner, and a polished presentation are qualities to be admired and emulated. However, for those who possess manipulative tendencies, charm is not merely an asset, it is a well-honed mask, a facade that conceals true intentions and drives a covert agenda. The very allure of such charm lies in its deceptive quality. It lures you into a sense of security, making you feel uniquely valued, while simultaneously establishing a subtle hierarchy of control. Beneath the glittering exterior lies a calculated use of personal magnetism designed not to build genuine connections, but rather to assert influence and manipulate emotions. Charismatic individuals who operate with ulterior motives often have a magnetic pull that draws people in effortlessly. Their charm is not an accident of personality, but a carefully cultivated tool. They present themselves as the epitome of warmth and benevolence, making you believe that you are at the center of their attention. Compliments and favors flow generously, and they possess an uncanny ability to make everyone around them feel like the most important person in the world. This intoxicating charm, however, is not synonymous with genuine kindness. It is a veneer, a polished surface that disguises a more calculated pursuit of personal gain and control. I once had a friend whose charm was so captivating that every interaction with him felt like a personalized affirmation of my worth. He had an effortless way of making each person in his company feel uniquely admired, often showering compliments and small acts of generosity that, at first glance, seemed entirely selfless. His ability to remember the minutiae of personal details and to mention them at opportune moments reinforced the impression of a deeply caring individual. Yet, as time passed, a pattern began to emerge that slowly unraveled the true nature of his character. It became evident that his kindness was conditional, not universal. He selectively offered his favor to those who, in his eyes, served his interests, and the moment someone ceased to be beneficial to his agenda, he discarded them without a trace. This experience was an eye-opening lesson on the illusion of charm. What had initially appeared to be genuine warmth was, in fact, a strategic maneuver aimed at gaining influence and establishing control. His compliments and generous acts were not expressions of heartfelt kindness, but instruments in a calculated effort to create dependency. The more you fell under the spell of his charm, the more he could steer conversations, opinions, and even decisions in directions that suited his needs. This manipulation was not obvious. It was a slow, almost imperceptible process, where the lines between sincere affection and strategic flattery blurred until you began questioning your own perceptions. So, how does one see through this well-constructed illusion of charm? The answer lies in a combination of keen observation, self-awareness, and an adherence to principles that do not rely solely on external validation. Observe how they treat others. Genuine kindness is impartial and consistent. A truly caring person extends their warmth regardless of what they might gain in return. By contrast, a manipulative individual's charm is selective. Observe their behavior in various contexts, especially towards those who offer them no apparent benefit. Are they as generous with their compliments and favors to those outside their inner circle, or do they reserve their attentiveness for a select few? This discrepancy often serves as a red flag, signaling that their charm is more about self-interest than mutual care. Trust your instincts. Often, a nagging feeling of unease accompanies interactions with someone whose charm feels too polished, too perfect. If you find yourself questioning the authenticity of their gestures, do not dismiss these instincts lightly. Our gut feelings are finely attuned to subtle inconsistencies in behavior that our rational mind might initially overlook. When something feels overly rehearsed or artificially flattering, it is a cue to take a step back and reassess the situation. Recognize that genuine kindness is unscripted. Authenticity in kindness does not require grand gestures or elaborate scripts. True empathy and care are evident in consistent, natural behavior, ones that persist even when there is no audience or immediate benefit. Unlike the over-the-top, performance-like charm of a manipulator, genuine kindness is understated and reliable. It does not need to be showcased to garner approval or influence. It simply is. The illusion of charm, therefore, is a sophisticated form of manipulation that exploits the human desire for validation and connection. In a world where first impressions are often formed in the blink of an eye, it is essential to look beyond the dazzling exterior and seek out the consistent, unembellished truth. Recognizing this discrepancy between surface charm and underlying intent is a critical step in maintaining emotional autonomy and protecting oneself from undue influence. By observing how individuals interact with others, trusting your inner voice, and understanding that authentic kindness is spontaneous rather than orchestrated, you can begin to discern the true nature of those who wield charm as a tool of manipulation. This discernment is not just a defensive tactic, it is also a means to cultivate a more genuine and resilient way of relating to others. a way that upholds the values of transparency and integrity central to a well-examined life. Ultimately, the journey to seeing through the illusion of charm is one of self-discovery and empowerment. It calls for a continuous commitment to introspection and the courage to question even the most flattering facades. As Epictetus reminds us, appearances may dazzle, but they often conceal deeper truths. By remaining vigilant and steadfast in your pursuit of authenticity, you ensure that you do not become entangled in the web of manipulation woven by those who use charm to control and exploit. The pathological liar. Nothing should be done if it isn't right, and nothing should be said if it isn't true. Marcus Aurelius. In the realm of human interactions, few threats are as insidious as the art of the pathological liar. For truly malevolent individuals, lying is not a sporadic lapse of honesty, but rather a meticulously cultivated way of life, a constant, deliberate effort to distort facts, manipulate perceptions, and ultimately gain power over others. These individuals do not simply err in truth. They consciously and repeatedly choose deception as their preferred tool, using it to undermine your confidence and to cast doubt upon your own reality. Pathological liars craft their falsehoods with remarkable precision. Their lies are woven into the fabric of everyday interactions, slowly infiltrating your thoughts and perceptions until it becomes difficult to discern what is real and what is fabricated. This deliberate distortion of truth is designed to make you question your own memory, your judgment, and even your very sense of self. In their eyes, the truth is an impediment, a barrier that prevents them from controlling the narrative and securing their desired outcomes. By twisting facts and reconfiguring events, they create an alternate reality where their version of events holds sway, leaving you isolated and uncertain about your own recollections. I recall an experience with a colleague that vividly illustrates this pattern of behavior. We had both worked diligently on a project, contributing ideas, labor, and commitment to achieve a shared goal. Yet, when it came time to present the results, this individual claimed full credit for the project, effectively erasing my contributions. When I confronted him about the disparity between our joint efforts and his unilateral acknowledgement, his response was not one of contrition or an honest reassessment of the situation. Instead, he engaged in gaslighting, a tactic intended to make me doubt the very accuracy of my memories. He insisted that I had misunderstood the sequence of events, subtly twisting the narrative until I found myself questioning the validity of my own recollections. The experience left me in a state of confusion and self-doubt, emblematic of the profound impact that a pathological liar can have on one's psyche. This kind of deception is not a fleeting mistake. It is a calculated strategy that requires constant upkeep. Lies, by their very nature, demand continuous reinforcement and maintenance. They often start with minor distortions, but over time, these fabrications grow into an elaborate web that can be difficult to sustain. Inconsistencies eventually emerge, a slight contradiction here, a factual error there, and these cracks in the narrative reveal the instability of the falsehoods. Recognizing these inconsistencies is key to uncovering the truth behind the manipulative facade. One of the most important defenses against the influence of a pathological liar is to learn to trust actions over words. Stoic philosophy teaches that a person's character is best revealed through consistent behavior rather than through promises or eloquent speeches. While a skilled liar may articulate a seemingly coherent and persuasive story, their actions often tell a different tale. Over time, their behavior may reveal discrepancies between what they say and what they actually do. By observing these actions carefully, you can begin to see through the carefully constructed veneer of deceit and recognize the underlying truth. It is equally important to understand that engaging in arguments with a pathological liar is rarely productive. These individuals thrive on confusion and the deliberate blurring of lines between truth and falsehood. Their strategy often involves drawing you into endless debates, where they skillfully deflect, divert, and distort every attempt you make to hold them accountable. Instead of clarifying the situation, such interactions can leave you feeling more muddled and less certain of your own perspective. In these circumstances, the wisest course of action is often to disengage. By walking away from fruitless arguments, you protect your mental clarity and prevent yourself from becoming entangled in a web of deceit. The Stoic approach to dealing with such deception is rooted in a steadfast commitment to truth and self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius' words remind us that we must hold ourselves to the highest standard of integrity, ensuring that our actions and speech align with what is true and just. This commitment involves being ever vigilant, constantly cross-checking the information presented to us, and refusing to be swayed by the artful deceptions of those who seek to control us. It is through such vigilance that we can preserve our autonomy and maintain a clear sense of reality, even in the face of relentless manipulation. Ultimately, the challenge posed by pathological liars is not simply one of confronting falsehoods, but of safeguarding our inner sense of truth and identity. Their lies are designed to undermine your confidence and to destabilize your understanding of the world around you. However, by paying close attention to inconsistencies in their stories, by placing greater trust in observable actions rather than persuasive words, and by choosing to step away from arguments that only serve to fuel their deception, you fortify yourself against their influence. Clarity, as the Stoics remind us, is the greatest weapon against confusion, a steadfast light that can dispel even the darkest of deceptions. In the end, living by the principles of Stoic philosophy means holding true to what is right and true, irrespective of the manipulative tactics of others. By doing so, you preserve not only your autonomy, but also your inner peace, ensuring that no one can subvert your reality without your consent. The journey towards self-mastery is a continuous one, marked by vigilance, discernment, and an unwavering commitment to truth. The absence of empathy. We are not meant to live solely for ourselves. Seneca. Empathy is the cornerstone of our humanity. It is the ability to feel and understand the emotions of others, forging connections that transcend superficial interactions. When empathy is present, relationships thrive on mutual understanding and shared experiences, creating bonds that are both deep and enduring. However, without this vital quality, connections between individuals become sterile, transactional, and ultimately unfulfilling. In its absence, relationships lose their soul, reduced to exchanges based solely on utility rather than genuine care. Evil individuals, or those with malevolent tendencies, often exhibit a stark lack of empathy. They view others not as human beings with feelings and aspirations, but as mere instruments to be used for personal gain, devoid of intrinsic worth unless they serve a specific purpose in advancing their own agenda. For those who lack empathy, every interaction is measured by what can be gained rather than the emotional connection that could be nurtured. Their interactions are characterized by an inherent indifference to the emotional states of others unless such states directly impact their objectives. They are not motivated by compassion or concern. Instead, their focus is on manipulation, control, and the reinforcement of their own superiority. This absence of empathy means that they are often oblivious to the pain or joy of others, or worse, they might derive a perverse satisfaction from the misfortunes of those around them. In such individuals, relationships are reduced to a series of transactions, each encounter weighed in terms of benefit, power, and control rather than genuine affection or solidarity. I vividly recall a personal experience that underscored the profound impact of lacking empathy. During a particularly challenging period in my life, I confided in a close friend about a personal struggle that had been weighing on me heavily. I had hoped that by sharing my difficulties, I would receive not only understanding but also the comfort that comes from knowing someone truly cares. However, instead of offering support or even a moment of reflective silence, This friend dismissed my pain almost immediately. With a sudden shift in the conversation, they redirected the focus entirely back onto themselves, recounting their own experiences and struggles without any acknowledgement of my distress. This behavior was not an isolated incident. It was emblematic of a recurring pattern. Over time, it became painfully clear that this friend's concern for others was conditional, existed only when it aligned with their personal narrative or offered them some form of validation or advantage. Their lack of genuine empathy was unmistakable, revealing a fundamental disconnect in their ability to relate to the emotions of others. Rather than providing solace or understanding, they used my vulnerability as a means to elevate their own experiences, effectively minimizing my suffering and underscoring their own resilience. Recognizing a lack of empathy in others is crucial for maintaining healthy relationships and protecting oneself from emotional exploitation. There are several indicators that can help reveal this absence. Indifference to your emotions. Individuals who lack empathy tend to show little interest in your feelings unless those feelings directly affect their personal agenda. They may acknowledge your emotions superficially, but rarely invest in understanding or alleviating them. Minimization and one-upping. A common behavior is the tendency to minimize your problems or dismiss your experiences as insignificant. Often, they will interject their own stories in a way that overshadows your struggles, subtly suggesting that your challenges are less important or that you are not handling them as well as they would. Deriving satisfaction from misfortune. Perhaps the most unsettling trait is a covert pleasure in your difficulties. While it might be hard to admit, some individuals might feel a sense of superiority or relief when others face hardships, as it reinforces their own sense of invulnerability or success. Confronted with such traits, the Stoic response is not to engage in a futile attempt to change someone's nature, but rather to safeguard your own emotional well-being. Stoic philosophy teaches that seeking validation from those incapable of genuine empathy is a path to continued disappointment and emotional turmoil. Instead, it advocates for building connections based on mutual respect, care, and understanding, a contrast to the transactional nature of relationships with the unempathetic. In practical terms, this means setting firm emotional boundaries. Recognize that not everyone deserves or is even capable of accessing your vulnerabilities. Emotional boundaries serve as a protective barrier, ensuring that you do not inadvertently invest in relationships that drain your energy or diminish your sense of self-worth. By consciously choosing whom to open up to, you preserve your emotional resources for those who are genuinely supportive and capable of reciprocal compassion. Moreover, it is essential to internalize the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, who advised that instead of endlessly debating what defines a good person, one should strive to be one. This perspective shifts the focus from external validation to personal growth and self-improvement. By aspiring to embody qualities such as kindness, understanding, and empathy yourself, you not only elevate your own character, but also set a standard for the relationships you nurture. In doing so, you create a self-sustaining environment of genuine connection, one that does not rely on the unpredictable and often shallow expressions of empathy from others. Living by these principles offers a robust framework for navigating a world where many interactions are marred by self-interest and a lack of genuine care. It reminds you that your emotional health and inner peace are paramount. By rejecting the need for validation from those who cannot truly connect with you on an empathetic level, you affirm your own worth and autonomy. This choice, though sometimes difficult, is a fundamental step toward cultivating a life filled with meaningful, authentic relationships. Ultimately, the absence of empathy in others is not a reflection of your value or worth. It is an indication of their limitations. In a society where empathy is increasingly undervalued, maintaining your capacity for compassion becomes an act of strength and defiance. By setting clear boundaries and seeking connections that honor your emotional needs. You protect yourself from the transactional dynamics that diminish the richness of human interaction. Embracing the Stoic approach means recognizing that you cannot control the empathy or lack thereof in others, but you can control how you respond to it. Choose not to internalize the indifference of those around you. Instead, focus on nurturing your own capacity for understanding and kindness, qualities that define the very essence of what it means to be human. In this way, you not only preserve your inner peace, but also contribute to a broader culture of genuine empathy and mutual care. In summary, the absence of empathy is a profound barrier to authentic connection. It transforms interactions into mere transactions and leaves relationships hollow and unfulfilling. By being mindful of those who dismiss or minimize your emotional experiences, and by setting healthy boundaries, you protect yourself from the emotional toll of unempathetic relationships. Ultimately, strive to be the embodiment of the compassion and understanding that you seek in others, forging a path toward a life enriched by true, empathetic connections. The hunger for control. Your mind is under your control, not external circumstances. Marcus Aurelius. For some individuals, the drive to control is not simply a passing habit. It is an essential component of their very being. In the minds of those with malevolent intentions, control is both a tool and an end in itself. These individuals do not rely on overt aggression or physical force to impose their will. Instead, they subtly manipulate circumstances, isolate their targets from supportive influences, and apply constant pressure until the person being controlled becomes pliable and compliant. Their ultimate objective is not merely to influence actions, but to dominate thoughts, emotions, and decisions, ensuring that every aspect of another's life is subject to their direction. At the heart of this insidious need for control is the belief that by commandeering the inner workings of another's mind, one can shape reality itself. The controlled individual gradually loses confidence in their own judgment and becomes increasingly dependent on the controller's guidance. The process is gradual. It begins with seemingly benign advice and gentle suggestions, then slowly escalates into a pattern where the person under control starts to question their own abilities, experiences, and decisions. This subtle undermining of self-reliance can leave lasting scars, affecting personal growth and eroding the very essence of one's individuality. I recall a particularly striking experience with a mentor who, in the beginning, appeared to be a source of genuine support and wisdom. His initial guidance was encouraging and empowering, and I found myself eager to learn from his insights. However, as time passed, I began to notice a disturbing pattern emerging. His advice shifted from being broadly beneficial to becoming increasingly prescriptive, dictating how I should think, act, and even feel about my own choices. Rather than fostering independence, his guidance became a means to control every decision I made. I started to rely on his approval for even the smallest choices, and soon, my confidence in my own judgment began to wane. His constant interventions left me second-guessing my instincts and feeling incapable of making decisions on my own. This subtle yet persistent manipulation was designed to make me dependent on his counsel, effectively taking away my freedom to think independently. This experience serves as a stark reminder that the hunger for control is not an isolated behavior, but a calculated strategy employed by those who wish to dominate others. It is a reminder of the importance of vigilance when someone's advice, however well-intentioned it may seem at first, begins to feel restrictive rather than liberating. Recognizing these patterns early on is crucial to reclaiming one's autonomy. How can we reclaim our power when faced with individuals whose very essence is built on the desire to control? The answer lies in cultivating self-awareness, inner strength, and the courage to assert personal boundaries. The Stoic teachings provide valuable guidance in this regard. Recognize the patterns of control. The first step is to become attuned to the subtle signs of control. Ask yourself if someone in your life consistently discourages you from making independent choices, or if their advice leaves you feeling more confined than empowered. Often, the need for control is masked as concern or mentorship, but the underlying message is clear. Your thoughts and decisions are not as reliable as theirs. When you observe this pattern, when every suggestion is accompanied by a subtle undermining of your confidence, it is a warning sign. Take the time to reflect on whether the advice you're receiving is truly in your best interest, or if it serves only to reinforce someone else's authority over you. Build inner strength through self-mastery. Stoicism teaches us that the true measure of power lies in self-mastery. The ability to control one's own mind, emotions, and actions is the greatest form of freedom. Instead of relying on external validation, cultivate a robust inner framework built on clear values, personal experiences, and self-reflection. Practice making decisions based on your own reasoning and trust your intuition. Over time, this will build your confidence and reduce the influence of those who seek to dictate your choices. Remind yourself daily that your mind is yours alone, that no external force can truly command your thoughts unless you permit it. Distance yourself from controlling influences. Sometimes, the most effective way to reclaim your power is to remove yourself from the environment where control is being exerted. If you recognize that certain relationships are consistently undermining your ability to think and act independently, it may be necessary to create some distance. This does not always mean a dramatic severance of ties. It can also involve setting clear boundaries about the kind of advice you're willing to receive. Surround yourself with individuals who respect your autonomy, who encourage you to make your own decisions, and who celebrate your successes without imposing their own opinions on your life. Freedom comes from within, and it cannot be taken away by those who do not have the right to control you. Reclaiming your power is a gradual process that involves continuous effort and self-reflection. It requires you to be honest about your vulnerabilities and to actively seek out opportunities to strengthen your resolve. Engage in practices that promote self-awareness, journaling, meditation, or even thoughtful dialogue with trusted friends can help reinforce your sense of self. Over time, you will notice a gradual shift. Your decisions will become more aligned with your true values, and the influence of those who seek to control you will diminish. Final thoughts. Protecting your peace. Evil people often operate in ways that are subtle and difficult to detect at first. Yet, by cultivating a deep awareness of their tactics, you can safeguard your inner peace. Stoic philosophy reminds us that our reactions to external circumstances are entirely within our control. No one can truly manipulate you unless you allow them to. The truth, as Marcus Aurelius would affirm, is that integrity and self-mastery are far more potent than any deception. Remember that lies and manipulation, no matter how cleverly disguised, eventually collapse under the weight of truth. Integrity is a steadfast foundation, and by building your life on principles of honesty and self-respect, you fortify yourself against the influence of toxic individuals. The journey toward maintaining inner peace is continuous. It demands vigilance and the constant reinforcement of your values. Do not let those who thrive on controlling others disrupt your tranquility. Instead, focus on nurturing your inner strength and protecting the sanctity of your mind. Recognize that true freedom is not granted by others. It is something you must claim for yourself. Every time you choose to trust your own judgment over the imposed opinions of someone else, you reaffirm your autonomy and contribute to your overall well-being. In essence, the path to reclaiming your power is a commitment to self-mastery and resilience. It is a daily practice of rejecting external control, fostering inner strength, and building relationships based on mutual respect rather than dependency. Stay vigilant, protect your energy, and let your inner light guide you through the challenges posed by those who seek to dominate your thoughts and decisions. Your peace is worth safeguarding, and by embracing the wisdom of Stoicism, you ensure that your mind remains a realm of freedom, integrity, and truth, untainted by the manipulative forces of others.